Hi guys, this is Daryl and welcome back to Sci-Fi Odyssey. Today we're focusing on one of the most prestigious awards in the science fiction world, the Hugo Awards. While they've often got it right, there have been a few times where I think they missed the mark. So let's break down the top 10 sci-fi books that didn't win the Hugo Award, but should have. In 1977, the Hugo Award went to Where Late the Sweet Bird Sang by Kate Wilhelm, which is all about cloning and some serious existential questions about individuality. But if it were up to me, Frank Herbert's Children of Dune should have taken the crown. This is the third book in the Dune series, and Herbert just keeps upping the stakes and breaking sci-fi barriers. He mixes politics, religion, environmentalism. Basically, he throws everything into the pot, and it all comes together to contribute to one of the most groundbreaking sci-fi series of all time. We've got power struggles, giant sandworms, because what's Dune without those, and a deep dive into what happens when you try to engineer human evolution. Spoiler: it's messy. Children of Dune, like the whole Dune series, was way ahead of its time. It's a tale with depth, and frankly, no pun intended, it has all the ingredients for a Hugo winner. Except, apparently, the actual winning part. In 2004, Paladin of Souls by Lois McCaster-Bujold took home the Hugo Award, a follow-up to her World of Five God series. But let's talk about Ilium by Dan Simmons, which hit the shelves at the same year and blew my mind in a way that only Simmons can. Simmons took the Iliad, mixed it with time travel, AI, quantum physics, and a post-human future, then tossed in a sprinkle of Shakespeare and Proust. It's like he looked at Greek mythology and thought, what if this, but with space robots? And honestly, it worked. The result was this bold, intricate, and totally unique narrative that juggles ancient myth with cutting-edge science fiction, and in my humble opinion, is way underrated. The sheer ambition of Ilium was off the charts. Simmons took huge ideas and somehow managed to weave them into a story that never felt overwhelming. I mean, how often do you see a blend of classic literature and sci-fi that actually works? Ilium and its follow-up, Olympus, are a masterpiece that, in my opinion, should have easily walked away with the Hugo. 2 years later, in 2006, the Hugo Award went to Spin by Robert Charles Wilson, and yeah, it's a totally cosmic head-scratcher. Earth gets trapped in this bizarre bubble where time slows down and the rest of the universe is like, yeah, good luck with that. But was it Old Man's War by John Scalzi? I don't think it was. In Old Man's War, 75-year-olds get recruited to fight in an intergalactic war. But they're not out there with their walkers and orthopedic shoes. Their consciousness gets transferred into super buff, genetically enhanced bodies that would put even the fittest 20-year-old to shame. Suddenly, it's the silver-haired army versus aliens. What makes Old Man's War stand out isn't just the action, but Scalzi manages to weave in humour, snappy dialogue, and surprisingly deep thoughts on aging, war, and what it means to be human. One moment you're laughing at these newly rejuvenated old folks figuring out their new bodies, and the next you're questioning the ethics of war, youth, and sacrifice. Think Starship Troopers, but with the cast of Cocoon. It's got a lot of heart and some seriously cool tech. Scalzi's fresh, fun, and thought-provoking take on military sci-fi deserved its moment in the spotlight. I mean, who wouldn't want to see a bunch of senior citizens turning into intergalactic badasses? Rainbow's End by Vernor Vinge won the Hugo in 2007. It's got augmented reality, wearable tech, and all the near-future sci-fi goodness you'd expect. Set in 2025, it basically predicted the world we're walking around in. But then there's Blindside by Peter Watts, which is on a whole other level of mind-bending hard sci-fi, which is hard to say because I'm stan for Vernor Vinge. In Blindside, humanity makes first contact with aliens. Standard sci-fi stuff. But here's the thing, these aliens are intelligent, but they're not conscious. They have no self-awareness, no think therefore I am. It's absolutely terrifying if you stop to think about it. Watts doesn't just explore space, he challenges what it means to be alive and conscious. It's like taking a deep philosophical dive while being shot into space on a rocket, and you're not sure where you'll end up. It's haunting and guaranteed to leave you pondering life long after you've finished. So while Vinge's master, Blindsight was brain rewiring stuff. It should have taken the Hugo for the sheer audacity of its ideas. In 2009, Neil Gaiman's The Graveyard Book won the Hugo. Sure, it's classic Gaiman, whimsical, spooky and heartwarming or whatever, but 2009 also was the year Neil Stephenson dropped Anathem, and this book, it's like the heavyweight champion of intellectual sci-fi. Anathem is a 900-page journey through quantum mechanics, philosophy, and the nature of the universe, all wrapped up in a monastery-style society where scholars nerd out about metaphysics. Stevenson takes these heavy concepts and somehow turns them into an epic, brain-melting narrative. Yes, it's dense. You might need to pause and take notes, or pause and take a holiday, but that's what makes it so brilliant. Stevenson isn't just world building, he's universe building, crafting an entire intellectual ecosystem where the characters debate the very fabric of reality. Anathem was a mind-blowing blend of speculative physics and epic storytelling. It didn't just deserve the Hugo, it deserved to be framed as a masterpiece of mental and cosmic exploration. Then in 2012, Jo Walton's Among Others won the Hugo. It's a heartfelt, semi-autobiographical tale about a young girl finding comfort in books and magic. I know what you're thinking. Wait, Daryl, I thought you said this was the Hugo Awards. You know, awards given to sci-fi books. Yeah, sometimes they just don't do that. This was the year the Hugo overlooked one of the most epic space operas out there, Leviathan Wakes by James S.A. Corey, the book that launched the Expanse series. Think Game of Thrones, but in space, without dragons, but with way more political intrigue. Oh, and spaceships. The brilliance of Leviathan Wakes lies in its balance between intense space battles and deeply personal stories. It's gritty, tense, and the world building, chef's kiss. Add corporate greed, political power plays, and an alien proto-molecule that screams, uh-oh, you've got a recipe for high-stakes drama. So, while Among Others was a thing, Leviathan Wakes was an interstellar rollercoaster that kicked off one of the best-selling sci-fi sagas of the decade. It deserved the Hugo, no question. In 2016, Neil Stephenson missed out again to a fantasy book, N.K. Jemisin's The Fifth Season. Stevenson's Seven Eves starts with the moon exploding, and humanity's immediate reaction is basically, we're doomed. The book follows Earth's scramble to survive, with Stevenson taking us through intense, detailed science, orbital mechanics, genetics, and everything it takes to stay alive in space. It's like a masterclass in how not to die in space, but with gripping human drama. And just when you think it's over, boom, there's a 5,000-year time jump and humanity's scattered across the galaxy in ways you couldn't imagine. The sheer scope of Seven Eves is mind-blowing. It's not just a survival story, it's speculative fiction that asks, what happens to humanity after millennia of evolution in space? Stevenson dives deep into the long-term future of our species, making you think about where we could end up. Seven Eves had the kind of audacity and scope that should have snatched the Hugo. Then in 2017, N.K. Jemisin won the Hugo again for The Obelisk Gate, the second book in her Broken Earth trilogy, even though it was up against arguably one of the most inventive hard sci-fi books of the decade, Death's End by Liu Cixin. Death's End is the finale of the Three-Body Problem trilogy, and it's an epic, mind-bending journey. We're talking galaxy-sized stakes, alien civilizations, and concepts like the Dark Forest theory, which basically suggests that the universe is a dangerous place and staying quiet might be the only way to survive. If aliens find you, it's game over for your civilization. The scope of Death's End is staggering, spanning millennia, intergalactic politics, and even black hole weapons. It makes you question humanity's place in the cosmos while keeping the focus on individual human stories. Death's End is the kind of hard sci-fi masterwork that comes along once in a lifetime. It absolutely should have taken the Hugo. Alright, so 2018 rolls around and it becomes clear that when N.K. Jemisin is in the race, no one is winning against her. She breaks records by taking home her third Hugo in a row for The Stone Sky, the third book in her Broken Earth fantasy trilogy. But in the same year, John Scalzi's The Collapsing Empire was quietly crushing it in the corner, and it deserved way more recognition from the Hugo folks. The Collapsing Empire is your classic space opera with a twist. The entire interstellar empire is literally falling apart and everyone's scrambling to deal with it. Scalzi has this incredible way of making big universe-ending stakes feel like an absolute blast to read. His dialogue is razor sharp and hilarious, and his characters are the kind of people you want to have a drink with, if they weren't busy saving the galaxy from imminent collapse. It's not just witty banter and space battles, though there's plenty of both. Scalzi throws in some sharp commentary on power, politics, and what happens when the system that holds everything together starts to crumble, literally and metaphorically. It's fast, it's fun, and it's got depth too, which is a pretty impressive combo. The Collapsing Empire was more than worthy of clinching that shiny Hugo. In 2022, A Desolation Called Peace by Arkady Martin won the Hugo, and while it continued her exploration of interstellar diplomacy and alien cultures, for me it didn't deliver. Meanwhile, Andy Weir's Project Hail Mary was out there delivering a thrilling blend of hard science, problem solving, and pure hope. Project Hail Mary follows Ryland Grace, a lone astronaut on a mission to save Earth from an extinction-level event, and let me tell you, it's an emotional rollercoaster. Weir combines his signature humour and hard science, and Grace is a protagonist that you can't help but root for. He's out there, alone in space, solving impossible problems and somehow holding it all together. It also delivers one of the most compelling and emotional, and at the same time hilarious human/alien first contact interactions, and it does it with a hopeful tone. For me, Project Hail Mary was the perfect antidote for anyone looking for a break from the swathes of pessimistic sci-fi out there, and should have easily taken home the Hugo. And there you have it, my list of top 10 sci-fi books that didn't win the Hugo, but should have. What do you think? Agree? Disagree? Let me know in the comments which books you think deserved a Hugo, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more exploration into the world of sci-fi. Until next time. Thanks so much for watching. If you're craving an extraordinary journey through realms unexplored, consider delving into universes directly out of my brain by checking out my sci-fi novels Black Milk and Delphine Descends. You can find more details in the description. Thanks for your support.